The Galactic Empire had long viewed Earth as a chaotic outlier. Isolated, divided, emotionally volatile, traits considered dangerous to their sterile galactic order. Surveillance drones and data harvested across decades painted a picture of a species too fractured to pose a threat. When humanity refused assimilation into the Dominion Accord, the decision was swift. Earth was labeled a Category Red threat. No negotiations, no warning, only extermination. Orbital bombardment began at 4 o'clock GMT. A coordinated strike involving 17 dreadnoughts, thousands of drone carriers, and plasma torrent satellites positioned in the solar system months prior under stealth. The first wave targeted all major cities. In 37 minutes, Earth's communication grid collapsed. Air defenses tried to respond, but were torn apart by atmospheric disruptors. Space agencies scrambled jets and missiles, but nothing broke through the shield lattice above. The second wave came with surgical precision. Hospitals, universities, research labs, power grids, all vaporized. The third wave wasn't surgical. It was cruel. They scoured the surface in fire, reducing anything organic in a carbon mist. In under 2 days, over 7 billion people were dead. Cities became ghost craters. Oceans boiled. Forests turned to glass. Satellites spun lifeless in orbit as Earth's magnetic field destabilized under the sheer volume of energy discharged against it. The Empire broadcast a message across the galactic network. Humanity extinguished. Earth neutralized. Resistance zero. The footage they showed was pristine, silent, solemn, and final. The Galactic Council applauded. Earth had been a nuisance, but now it was just another lesson in compliance. But far beneath the surface, in facilities shielded from cosmic radiation and seismic targeting systems, fragments of humanity had survived. Not in palaces or bunkers, but in black sites so deep their very existence had been erased from Earth's own governments decades prior. On Mars, in an orbital relay station staffed with only 3 personnel, an encrypted signal was received. Origin, Antarctica, clearance, Omega Black. The message was just 2 words, printed in a font not used since the collapse of the Warsaw State in 2084. It said, "Wake Baba." The staff on Mars stared at the code. They knew what it meant, even though it hadn't been spoken aloud in years. There was no hesitation. Protocol was clear. One survivor initiated the key sequence. The relay accepted. The signal pulsed back through secure channels until it reached the lowest known vault on Earth, a cryogenic tomb buried beneath 4 kilometers of frozen rock, built not to protect, but to contain. Systems reawakened. Lights blinked for the first time in decades. Biomonitors ran their diagnostics. Vital signs stabilized. And from that darkness, something stirred. Earth's remnants couldn't afford a military response. There was no fleet left, no nations, no armies. Only pain, only memory. What Earth had unleashed wasn't a weapon of mass destruction. It was far more focused, precise, designed in secrecy during the cold unity conflicts of the 22nd century. Baba Yaga wasn't a myth. He was a result. The result of 27 failed prototypes. The result of losing too many wars the rest of the world never knew happened. Built for one thing: total asymmetrical obliteration. The Galactic Empire didn't notice the signal. It was too small, a blink in the data noise of a dying world. Their analysts dismissed it as electromagnetic static. They celebrated in their orbital chambers and resumed cleansing lesser species across fringe systems. Earth was considered resolved, but the thing waking beneath, it wasn't part of their calculations. It wasn't part of anyone's. Humanity had tried to forget him. Even Earth's darkest agencies considered him a failure, not because he couldn't win wars, but because he didn't stop after they were over. There was a reason no one spoke his name, a reason he had no file photo, no voice recordings, not even a DNA sequence in official records. He wasn't meant to be remembered. He was only meant to be used when there was nothing left to lose. The Empire didn't understand that kind of desperation. They believed destruction ended resistance. But humanity's gift was never surrender. It was fury given direction, pain weaponized. They had torn Earth apart thinking it would erase a threat. Instead, they had carved away every distraction, every hesitation, every obstacle. They had gifted Earth one thing it had never known: pure, undiluted focus. And now that focus had awakened, the final failsafe of a species too stubborn to die quietly. No orders needed, no backup expected, no mercy available. Earth had gone silent not because it was dead, but because it had whispered a name into the dark, and something ancient had listened. He didn't awaken like a man. There was no gasp for air, no confusion, no emotion. His eyes opened without hesitation, scanning every biometric reading, analyzing the environment in microseconds. Blood pressure, muscle density, visual range, all perfect. The cryo systems detached with mechanical precision, and the chamber began its shutdown. Protocols triggered automatically. The facility AI, now awake, ran through ancient directives with cold urgency. He stood upright, unshivering, already pulling gear from the lockers lining the wall. Nothing labeled, but he knew each piece by feel alone. His body moved with purpose, memory wired into every muscle. Files uploaded directly to his neural interface. Galactic data, language updates, weapon specs, topographical changes, orbital patterns. He consumed it in seconds. Earth was gone. Humanity was declared extinct. The Empire had broadcast its arrogance across every system. Their pride was an error. That error had just been assigned a correction. They had named him Baba Yaga, not in folklore reverence, but out of institutional fear. His true name was deleted long ago. He had no family, no loyalty, no ideology. He was created to be unstoppable, and when that proved too dangerous, he was buried. But they hadn't killed him. They just hoped never to need him again. The moment Earth fell, that hope died. He wasn't born for war. He was refined by it. Every nerve tuned to violence. Every reflex built for terminal efficiency. He operated without command structure, without mission briefings. All objectives were self-selected. All outcomes singular: eradicate threat. The Empire had unknowingly turned the key to a weapon that didn't recognize their treaties or rules of engagement. He didn't come with honor or banner. He came to end. Elsewhere in the system, the Martian outposts waited for data. Surveillance was limited. Empire jammers still blinded deep scans. But their job was done. They had triggered the failsafe. They wouldn't hear from him. They wouldn't know where he moved, how he struck, or what became of the enemy. They weren't supposed to. He wasn't a soldier. He was something war had birthed and peace had failed to destroy. The Empire's analysts still ignored the warnings. Their reports labeled residual signals from Earth as decaying tech anomalies. Their advisors laughed at the idea that any remnant of humanity could fight back. They had wiped the cradle clean. How could something crawl out of ashes? Their arrogance had no concept of ghost. And that's all he needed to begin. He moved through what was left of Earth with silent calculation. He studied wreckage not with grief, but with tactical scrutiny. Every destroyed system revealed the enemy's patterns. Energy signatures, detonation yields, orbital deployment rhythms, all fed into his adaptive models. He didn't need rage. He needed data. Emotion was inefficient. The mission required only precision. While they scoured the outer colonies, celebrating their victory, he was already inside the machine. Hijacking transmissions, mapping fleet logistics, rewriting code into obsolete systems they dismissed. He turned Earth's dead infrastructure into a surveillance web. He located soft points, listened, observed, calculated, and then he began the first moves. Empire vessels in low orbit began experiencing technical glitches. Minor at first: sensor drift, engine hiccups, internal comms delay. Crews blamed local interference. Maintenance logs stacked. Then one ship vanished. No explosion, no distress call, just silence. No debris field. The flagship sent a recon drone. It returned with corrupted data and one image: a figure standing on the vessel's main deck, surrounded by torn armor, eyes glowing faintly in infrared. They dismissed it as fabricated, a virus, a trick by surviving AI systems. But then another ship fell. And another. Each time, nothing but silence. No survivors. No trace. Only a message, burned into the hull using micro-drone plasma etching. For Earth, panic didn't set in immediately. Empires don't panic. They analyze. They deploy. They reassure. They repeat protocol. But the losses escalated faster than reports could be processed. Systems began to fail not from outside attack, but internal collapse. He was turning their ships against themselves, one after another. They didn't know who or what they were facing. They had never faced anything that hunted alone with this level of tactical brilliance. They searched for patterns and found only destruction. They sought motive and received only consequences. He didn't announce himself. He didn't threaten. He didn't negotiate. He simply began. The name Baba Yaga surfaced in their networks like a virus, traced back to old Earth transmissions the Empire had archived but never decoded. Their linguists unearthed myths, human horror tales, encrypted military briefings. A figure of fear, a predator, a final consequence. What they had assumed was ancient superstition was now tearing holes through their fleets. The term was flagged for suppression across all official channels. Civilian broadcasts were censored, but fear had already taken root. Some officers refused deployment to Earth sector. Others deserted entirely, leaving automated drones to patrol dead orbits. Every Empire asset near the Sol system began reporting shadow anomalies, missing scouts, corrupted navigation. They still believed in control, still believed they could contain it. But the truth was already unfolding. Baba Yaga wasn't Earth's revenge. He wasn't humanity's second chance. He was the punishment. The Empire escalated. What began as isolated anomalies was now categorized as a tactical threat. Task Force Lambda was deployed, 12 warships, each equipped with advanced AI targeting, cloaking systems, and elite strike units. Within 72 hours, all contact was lost. No emergency beacons, no wreckage. Only a distorted transmission caught by a listening post on Epsilon Arc. Heavy static, a faint child's voice humming an Earth lullaby, then silence. The Empire no longer laughed. They had stopped underestimating the ghost. Baba Yaga operated with no base, no allies, no visible logistics. He didn't use force when silence sufficed. He rewrote their command relays, altered friend or foe protocols, and turned ships against each other. By the time they realized their gunnery drones were reprogrammed, entire battle groups had already annihilated themselves. Engineers were blamed. Executions followed. Morale collapsed. A name began circulating in hushed tones, not spoken, only shared through glimpses, scars, and silence. One word, Baba. His strikes were surgical. A power hub here, a quantum relay there, a fleet control core in a distant asteroid belt, sabotage from the inside without alerting a single sensor. Wherever they thought he wouldn't go, he was already gone. Aboard one disabled cruiser, carved into the captain's chamber wall in blood, were 4 words: "This is just beginning." Empire leaders shifted their strategy. Brute force failed. Intelligence networks collapsed. PsyOps teams spread propaganda that Earth destruction was fabricated, an illusion to confuse enemies. But no one believed it. Entire sectors were turning volatile. Non-human species in the fringe systems began resisting Empire control. They saw in humanity's ghost not just vengeance, but proof that the Empire could bleed. Baba Yaga wasn't inspiring revolts. He was infecting fear. That fear traveled faster than any starship, faster than any broadcast. It settled into the bones of those who once felt untouchable. Veterans began requesting reassignment. Officers faked illness. Commanders altered patrol schedules to avoid Sol. In a regime built on absolute control, cracks had appeared. Cracks he kept widening. When they deployed assassins trained in cross-species elimination, they didn't return. Their tracking data ended inside a derelict station near Jupiter's orbit. Footage recovered from their neural implants showed only static and a shadow moving against the walls. The last readable moment was the sound of metal shearing and one whisper, I remember your kind. The Empire tried predictive modeling. Super AIs were tasked with calculating his next target. They failed. He didn't follow logic. He followed patternless destruction. They couldn't corner him. Every countermeasure was outdated before deployment. He had learned their language, their timing, their fear responses. He wasn't evolving. He was remembering. Because every weapon he used, every kill he executed, was part of the training Earth had buried inside him decades ago. On Mars, silent figures watched the data trickle in. They didn't reach out. They didn't track him. They couldn't. All they knew was that their decision to wake him had been correct. He had become a retaliation they could never mount. He wasn't liberating Earth. He wasn't restoring humanity. He was making sure the Empire understood what extinction felt like. One Empire ship attempted surrender. It shut down all systems and opened all doors to space, broadcasting a plea for mercy. No life signs were found afterward. Only the command console remained functional, looping a text file. You killed children. There is no surrender. Every world once occupied by Earth was now receiving encrypted messages. They weren't calls to arms. They were warnings. The stars are burning. Stay out of the fire. A few alien factions tried reaching out, seeking alliance. None received a response. He didn't need help. He wasn't building a rebellion. He was dismantling an empire alone. The term Baba Yaga was now considered a Class 1 suppressive phrase by Empire law. Uttering it carried execution. But it was too late. The myth had become viral. Even their own AI systems, designed to erase the term, began to glitch when processing it. It wasn't just a name. It was a signal embedded in death reports, a presence that machines could not quantify, only fear. A new breed of internal memo began circulating within the Empire's high command. Project Eclipse. A last resort weapon. Mass sector cleansing. The logic was simple. If you can't find a ghost, burn everything. But hesitation grew. They had already made that mistake once. The first time they burned Earth, they thought they ended a species. Instead, they forged a nightmare. Now, their fleets operated without formation. Ships doubled their distance from each other to prevent cross-infiltration. Commanders operated in isolation. Communication was fragmented by design to prevent systemic collapse from a single strike. They were adapting. But fear makes even the adaptive slow. And he was always ahead. When the 10th dreadnought was found hollowed from the inside, its entire crew missing, control AI erased, engines still humming, a single line was found burned into the bridge console. This is the cost of arrogance. He wasn't destroying them for revenge. He was erasing them as a species that forgot consequence. And he was far from finished. The Empire mobilized its largest war fleet in a century. Over 300 ships converged near Seoul, accompanied by dreadnought-class flagships, hunter-killer cruisers, and an armada of AI-controlled interceptors. A superweapon codenamed Purity Engine was positioned in orbit, built to erase entire planetary systems with a synthetic singularity. Their logic was final. If they couldn't eliminate the ghost, they would erase the battlefield itself. Command chains were tightened, internal communication encrypted, fleet movement synchronized to millisecond precision. Nothing was left to chance. They believed this time they had him cornered. He dismantled them in under 9 hours. It began with a distortion in their primary navigation systems. AI cores across the fleet misread coordinates and drifted. Some crashed into debris fields, others into each other. Shield calibrations failed simultaneously across sectors, exposing power cores. Missiles that launched redirected mid-flight, turning around in suicide arcs. Engineering decks sealed from within, atmospheric vents opened, crews asphyxiated. A third of the fleet went dark before a single weapon was fired. And then, transmission stopped. Not jammed, not blocked, cut. The command ship received a final message, a live feed from their outer sensor array, displaying the Empire's own warships crumbling in a silent wreckage, one by one, in total coordination. No narration, no demand, just execution. He boarded their flagship during a council session. Security protocols engaged instantly. Shields locked down, armed drones deployed. All failed. When their bodies were later found, None had signs of external trauma. Their neural cores had been flash-fried through implants. Instant death. A message was carved into the table they once ruled from. You taught us fear. Let me return the lesson. The loss was irreversible. With their leadership eliminated, the military command fractured. Regional governors declared autonomy. Sectors splintered. Revolts ignited across dozens of systems. Species long subjugated, rising in violent rebellion. Empire AI collapsed under viral code, designed to mimic operational normalcy while corroding all decision-making logic. Entire shipyards detonated from within. He didn't have to fire on them. He made them implode from trust in systems they no longer controlled. Resistance movements once scattered across the galaxy now surged. The myth of human vengeance had become reality, and that reality became contagious. They didn't see him, didn't contact him, didn't ask for leadership. But they followed the trail of ash and shattered steel he left behind. Every symbol of the empire that fell strengthened the others. What was once fear became momentum. On the throne planet, the heart of imperial civilization, defenses went on perpetual lockdown. Civil unrest rose daily. They called back fleets from fringe systems, desperate to protect what remained. But it was already over. He had already been there. Power grids failed. Communications vanished. The orbital defense ring shut down, its AI subverted. He didn't approach as an army. He walked in alone. No alarms triggered. No resistance succeeded. The imperial palace stood at the center of a silent world. When they found the emperor's body, it had not been mutilated. Just a single shot. Clean, exact. The man who gave the order to burn Earth died without ceremony. A note was left on his throne, not spoken, not broadcast, just a carved phrase, "This is balance." Across the galactic network, an automated message began broadcasting, not from any known relay. It simply activated, spreading system to system, unlocking on every empire frequency. It contained no image, only audio. A human voice, unfiltered, devoid of emotion. You erased 7 billion lives. You believed we would vanish. We did not. We adapted. We endured. You bred extinction, and now you inherit it. This is not vengeance. This is correction. Humanity remembers. The stars will forget you. Within hours, core empire worlds fell. Those that had enforced terror for generations now begged for mercy that would never come. Entire species reclaimed independence. Former allies abandoned the sinking regime. Galactic records began updating, listing the empire not as active, but defunct. The collapse wasn't just military. It was cultural. It was existential. Back on Mars, sensors confirmed it. No more fleets. No more transmissions. Earth's Avenger had done what no fleet could. He had turned myth into absolute consequence. They tried to track him, but his signal was gone. No record remained. It was as if he'd vanished the moment his task was finished. Some believed he returned to Earth's ruins. Others claimed he never left. In the aftermath, survivors rebuilt, not to reclaim power, but to remember. Statues were never made. Songs were never sung. His name became a warning whispered between generations. Don't provoke extinction. Don't forget the cost of underestimating those with nothing left to lose. The galaxy moved on, but it did so quietly, cautiously, remembering the silence that followed 7 billion deaths and the echo that answered. He didn't save humanity. He punished its destroyers. He was not justice. He was inevitability. Baba Yaga came, and then he left, taking the empire with him.